Recently, I had a student start up private lessons with me, and prior to taking lessons with me, they were self-taught for about 6 months. And during our very first lesson, I always like to kind of gauge where they're at, what they're comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with, and questions that they might have. And the first question that they asked me was that they had confusion with the F chord. And it was really all about when they would look up a chord chart for a song that they were wanting to learn, or maybe learning a song tutorial on YouTube. The instructor or the chord chart was always showing a different F, and they didn't know which one was right. They had questions about how to play certain ones, and I totally understand it since it's not the first time that a student has asked me that exact question. So today what I want to do is go in depth on the 4 versions of F, the most common versions that you're going to see, the pros and cons of each, which ones I think are the easiest to most challenging, will go in order, and to really just answer some questions in case you're a beginner or maybe more intermediate or just have some confusion or questions on the F chord. All right, jumping right into it, the first chord, or the first variation of F, we're going to call it, is going to be F major 7. And this is actually the very first version that I like to teach my students when they first start taking guitar with me, because it's nice and simple, and it's a very easy, eventually it's a nice little upgrade to the second version, which we'll talk about too. So F major 7 is going to be the very first one. It looks like a mini C chord. So if you know your C major chord or your basic C chord, it's going to be like a small version of that. We're going to go ahead and place our third finger on the 3rd fret of the 4th string, our middle finger on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and our first finger on the 1st fret 2nd string with the open E string or the open high string. And we're going to strum 4 strings. Now, one thing that I like to tell my students for a few reasons why this is a great one to have in your, we'll call it your chord toolbox, is because some songs, if you listen very carefully when it has an F chord, might not use the full bulky bar chord F. It might use F major 7. It's got a bit of a more soft jazz sound, as you can tell, and it's because it's a major 7 chord. So I'll put up chord charts for everything. Make sure that this one feels nice and solid if you haven't played or learned this one yet. And another reason why I really like this one is for switching purposes. As we all know, switching between chords is a pain. Learning to switch well between chords as a beginner guitarist is never easy. But if we go ahead and do a really common switch combo, say it's F to C to A minor back to F, we never have to remove that first finger, right? So if I go F major 7 to C, A minor, back to F, I never remove that first finger. That is anchored down. And that's going to be a really big deal, especially if you're a beginner, not having to worry so much about having to play bars or having a hard time switching between chords. Any way we can make it easy and still sound great is going to be key. All right, up next, we're going to call this variation number 2. And this one is going to be one that a lot of people start off with. A lot of instructors might teach their students this version, or maybe a guitar method book might have this as well. And it's a good version. I'll explain why I like it and why I also don't like it. We're going to call this small f because it's a true full F. It's not F major 7 anymore. It's going to be a true F chord, but it's the small version. So an easy way to get there, again, follow the chord chart, but we're going to make F major 7 first, just from about a minute ago. And we're going to go ahead and take the first finger, and we're going to actually bar across the top 2 strings, 1st fret, and keep everything else the way it is. And once you're there, we're going to go ahead and strum 4 strings. And that is going to be our small F, we'll call it. Here's why I like it. One is it's a true F chord. We're not playing a slight variation or a slight difference like F major 7. Even though that chord is an F and it sounds great, it's not a absolute true F. We're still modifying one of the notes. This version, it's a true F. But here's why I'm not a fan, the bar chord. And even though it's not a full bar chord, that people have a lot of troubles with, it's still a bar chord nonetheless. And for students that are brand new to guitar, or maybe students with smaller hands, this can be a real tough challenge for them. So it's good to learn. I think eventually, it's more of a level 2. That's why I put this as like maybe the second easiest one in my opinion. If you've already learned it that way, no worries. Again, you can always take away the bar and leave that open string, that high string open, and you've got a new variation of F that you might not have already known about. So this one's a good one. I'm going to call this small F, and it's hand in hand with the first version, so whichever one is easier for you, stick with that one. But I really wanted to talk about both of those today, and we've got 2 more variations coming up. Now, really quick before we get into the next two variations of our F chord, if you haven't yet subscribed to the channel and you'd like to support us directly here at Growth in Music and see more weekly content from the channel, subscribing is a great way to do it. It supports us directly, and you'll be able to see and be notified with more content every single week moving forward. All right, for this third spot, again, a lot of people might disagree with me here, and I totally understand, but I'm gonna get around to why I left the fourth spot open to the most challenging version of F that I don't really recommend to people. And again, a lot of people might disagree with me on that, but in the third spot, I do recommend the bar chord, F. And a lot of people might be thinking, oh man, the bar chord, those are tough. I've already had trouble with those in the past. Why would you put that in the third spot? That's true, but here's my thinking. If you feel good about the first two variations of F, if you feel really good about playing them, they feel good and they sound good, you're definitely ready to take on your first bar chord at that point already. Not if you're a complete beginner, but at this point, you should be ready to start practicing them. So that's one reason. The second is because you get to do a lot with this chord besides just playing it as an F. Here's what I mean. To make this chord, you're gonna bar across all 6 strings, first fret, and you're gonna make the E major shape underneath it. Okay, so that's gonna be your full F bar chord. It's full, it sounds good, you're using all 6 strings. And I always tell people, when you first learn bar chords, they are a pain. They're not fun. Nobody likes them, but you will get stronger with them. You gotta keep up practicing with them, and you gotta slowly just keep sticking with it. That's the key, that's the name of the game. But one thing that people might not realize if they haven't really played bar chords before is if they make this F chord, they've also unlocked a ton of other chords. Let's say we move up another fret. Well, that's F sharp major now, and then more. You've already unlocked a ton of chords. Not only that, let's say we go back to the F major spot, okay? If we take away the middle finger, just that note, we now have F minor, right? And the only way that we could do that, with the bar chord I should say, is by just removing one simple finger. And usually that's pretty easy for people once they feel good about the full F bar chord. From there, you can move up 1 fret at a time. You've just unlocked a ton of chords again, right? And let's say we go back one more time to that F major chord. If we remove the pinky, we've now got F7 or F dominant 7. So we've already unlocked a ton of chords. You've done a lot of work with just really working on that one F major bar chord off the first fret. If you really get that one down, you've already unlocked a ton of doors. So that's why I put that in this third spot, because like I said, it's tricky, it's tough, but it's doable. And I think that long term, when it comes to learning songs and having more options when it comes to playing chords, especially your F, being able to perform a really good bar chord, especially the F bar chord, is going to be key. Okay, the fourth spot or the fourth variation for F is going to be my least favorite, and I will explain why. Now, this one we don't use a bar. You would think that we would be, but we're not. We're just going to be doing more work than we have to, which I'm sometimes not a big fan of. So here's what you're going to do to build it. I want you to start off with the F major 7 chord from earlier, and you can also follow the chord chart, that's fine too. But what we're going to do is take that third finger and we're going to place it on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. So now we have a bass note of C instead of F. And that's okay, a C note is also in an F chord naturally, so that's not breaking any rules here. We're going to tuck our pinky in right behind it on the 3rd fret of the 4th string, just where that 3rd finger was. So now we're using 4 fingers. Here's where things get more difficult. The next thing is we want to be able to mute that high string, and again, for beginners, using 4 fingers for a chord and having to mute, that's a lot of work. That can be really challenging. And to switch to and from, again, we talked about, the benefits of that earlier. Those benefits kind of go away because it's not going to be nearly as easy, unfortunately. So you're going to mute the highest string with the back of your 1st finger. You're going to play 4 fingers on the fretboard. Now, some people, even when they're muting the high string, playing 4 notes on the fretboard, they also like to wrap their thumb around the 1st fret of the low string, which is F, and add that note as well. And at this point, it's like, I understand that they're trying to avoid a bar and they're getting the fullest sound out of their F chord. But at that point, playing the F bar chord is probably just going to be a bit, maybe even simpler, especially when it comes to just might as well learn your bar chords anyway. You can do that and knock out 2 things at once. So not only are they going to be muting, playing a ton of notes. Now they're wrapping their thumb around the low string. You'll see that on some chord charts. It just makes things a lot more challenging when they don't have to be, which is a big reason why I'm not a fan of this one. And as you can tell, I don't have the biggest hands in the world. So when I do this or make this chord, the palm of my hand is cradling the guitar neck personally, and I'm not a huge fan of that. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel good. I kind of feel locked up, and it's not a good feeling for myself. And I just imagine with other people, it's probably going to be the same thing. Again, if you play it this way already, go for it. You're going to get a full F sound anyway. But if you haven't already worked on this one and you see this one on a chord chart, you can use any of the other F variations that you saw today, whether it's the F major 7 if you're a complete beginner, the small F if you're used to that one, or the full F chord, F bar chord I should say, that will be even better. Again, whether you play this one or the full F bar chord, they're both going to give you the same sound. You've just got more options and flexibility with the F bar chord. That's why I recommend that one. All right, I know today's video was nice and quick. I wanted to really just share what I found was a lot of the confusing points with people, some tips and tricks, as well as pros and cons to each variation of the F chord. Because again, I can understand as a beginner, you could have a ton of questions on this. So again, if you like videos like this and you'd like to support us and see more content here at Growth in Music in the next couple of days, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.